And we're going to play the Alaska Suite, a story of beauty, loss, and hope. With music, with poetry, with beautiful images, that envelope of the creative arts allows people to engage at a more deep and emotional level. The Alaska Suite started with an idea instigated by my brother-in-law, Tor, who simply said, you know, Nelda, you should write and compose music about climate change in Alaska. Alaska is the canary in the coal mine. It tells a story that should be heard. Alaska's wildlife and human life are struggling to adapt if they can. Well, I am first and foremost a jazz musician, and I love the sense of instantaneous creativity that exists in jazz. It's really exciting for me to hear what each individual musician brings to the performance and brings to the piece. For example, the drummer in my group, Adam Kessler, I give him no instructions on what to play on the drums. He gets to open his ears and be influenced by whatever the other musicians are doing. These musicians are all experts on their instruments, and they know the cool sounds they can make, and they're all highly experienced improvisers. They have their own history. Every time we perform the Alaska Suite, it's different. And that's why I feel like the performing arts have such a powerful role to play in communicating hard information, whether it's about climate change or poverty or racism or, it's such a powerful medium. My goal with the Alaska Suite is to go out there to share some really difficult information, but share it with music that allows us to be emotionally present, absorb it, and then actually be inspired to then take action to address this great problem of climate change. Over the last, several months, The performance has definitely evolved. So the performance is now 9 songs. I composed the song Melting. Every instrument has the ability to produce all kinds of interesting sounds. Creating this environment where everyone in the band feels this freedom to explore what they can do on the strings. So all he's doing is plucking on the strings. The goal there was for him to sound a little bit like water dripping. Home to some of the largest glaciers on Earth, and there are more than 100,000 of them. Alaska is also home to the fastest loss of glacier ice on Earth. Retreating glaciers in Alaska and British Columbia contribute about 40 to 70 gigatons of surplus fresh water to the oceans every year. Even if warming stopped now, glaciers would continue melting for years or decades to come. Half of the land in Alaska is underlain by permafrost, a permanently frozen layer of soil, rocks, and frozen water. Near the Arctic Circle, the ground is frozen sometimes as deep as 2,000 feet. But thaw has begun. Once secure forests are sinking drunkenly into thaw lakes and bogs. The ground is slumping and vegetation patterns are changing. Walls of ice are collapsing into the ocean. Alaska's wildlife and human life are struggling to adapt if they can. There's a few reasons why burning has the energy that it does. When the forest is burning, there's the crackling and intensity of the fire, but I also imagine the panic in the animals and the creatures that are living in that forest. As, you know, it could be the animals as well as humans that are in contact with fire. I mean, there must be this incredible anxiety and running and trying to escape from fire. So I imagine that, and that meant this sort of intensity. What Adam does with that is his own creation. Within that genre of up-tempo swing, there's a lot of different things that a drummer can do, and he is putting all of his own experience as a jazz drummer and his creative ideas into creating the energy that's there. And I'm really pleased with where he's taken that, and to just go kind of off the charts energy-wise during that drum solo, which I find really exciting. When we perform Homeless, Julian's mission is to sound like distressed guillemots, which are birds that are suffering because of climate change. So he starts making these really kind of skittery, kind of almost not musical, but more, or I can't even say human because it's not human, because the animals aren't, humans, but sounding more like actual animal sounds. That's the goal there. Likewise, in that same song, Cliff on trombone is trying to sound like a starving polar bear on his trombone. They have this expressive quality out of their instruments that is, I think, capturing the emotional quality of that distress. I have a good friend, Jill McGrath, who I know is a fine poet, and I love her poetry. And so I thought, well, why don't I ask Jill if she would like to write some poetry? And somehow the idea came up to have one of the poems read in the middle of one of my songs. I mean, I don't know, somehow I thought that could be cool. I'll do that. So there are actually 2 poems at every performance, one in the program and then one that is shared from the stage. So the idea to ask the audience, to each individual, to write down what they have done, can do, or will do to address climate change, address people just directly. I think there's something really powerful about having someone ask you a question directly and having to physically write it down. There's a real power in there in facilitating change and action. And it's been great to perform this piece now for like the last year and a half, and to talk to people that came to prior performances and say, you know, I actually, you know, I wrote down that I was going to do this and I actually did it. It's like, and I think at that moment when people have just, I mean, the goal is for them to have an emotional ride when they experience Alaska Suite, so that people are vulnerable and they are open and they are feeling like, yeah, I could do something, and it is important that I do something at that specific moment, to ask them that question. What can you do? And it's really fun to hear the possibilities that people put down. Some of them I think, oh my God, that would be amazing if you did that. I'm probably not going to accomplish that in a lifetime, but that would be amazing. And then the will do is like maybe a little bit more commitment. So I want it to be, it's really an exercise to celebrate what people are already doing and just to open them up to the possibilities. And maybe somewhere in there they are going to make a real concrete change for the better of the planet.
Julian and I are going to read some of these ideas. We probably won't be able to get to all of them. But here's some. Here's someone who says, I've been a vegetarian for 5 years now for environmental reasons. I want to keep reminding myself of the difference that I am making. That's what they're going to do. That's fantastic. Here's someone who's going to turn the heat down, buy locally produced goods and food, eat less red meat, teach children about global warming. I'm going to pass it over to Julian for some more.
This person participated in local Taming Bigfoot competition here in Seattle earlier this year. This was a team competition to support people learning about reducing their carbon footprint. This person has installed 40 solar panels on their house. I've stopped eating red meat several years ago, using public transportation whenever possible, parked my car 3 days a week, ride the bike to many places, walk to many places instead of driving or catching a bus, ride a scooter instead of a car. And let's see, a couple more of these. We haven't gone electric yet, but recently purchased a used hybrid car. We're looking into an alternative heating system for our home. Gotten a couple of quotes.
This must be someone who's come back to the Alaska Suite. It says, the first time I saw the Alaska Suite, I wrote, my next car will be an electric. As of last week, I'm proud to say I drive a Nissan Leaf. Woo! Eat vegan. In the U.S., 42% of emissions come from livestock. Consume minimally. Support carbon greenhouse gas pricing. Bike or bus to work.
Take much shorter showers. Need to bundle up and save on heating. This person, I don't drive. I need to use less heat and electricity, not leaving lights on and such. Thank you all for your comments. This is great.
So we are just about to finish a studio recording of the Alaska Suite, including all of the music and just a little bit of narration before each song. I think it would be great to have something that people take home with them that can be that little reminder, just whatever that feeling they had at that moment at the concert. From the very first performance, I had people coming up and asking me, is this recorded? Are you going to record it? Can I get a copy? Which was, of course, oh, wow, that's great. People want to take it home with them. So what's been so exciting about this project is how many people have expressed, after seeing the performance of the Alaska Suite, have expressed an interest in supporting what we're doing and have felt that this actually is a really interesting and effective tool for spreading energy around climate solutions. So we feel really supported by our community. I feel really supported by the musicians in the band, but I also feel really supported by the people who have hosted concerts, the people who have come to the concerts. It's really exciting to see individuals be moved by and excited about what we're doing and come back 2, 3 or more times to see Alaska Suite. It's really exciting to see the generosity of people. After a performance, we say, if you would like to help fund future performances, and people come up and start giving us money to say, this is cool, I'd like to support that, getting this performance into a greater and diverser communities. So that's been really thrilling. The next step for us, we feel, is to reach out and create partnerships, more long-term partnerships with other organizations that are working on the issue of climate change, and that's the next step for us.
I just experienced this really beautiful multimedia, multi-sensory production that had a message, it had amazing music, and it had these really strong visual images. So,
especially what was most effective, I think, was having that moment at the end where we all felt a little accountable and kind of expressing what we can all do.
Being able to hear very good music and being informed at the same time and leaving with this emotional connection to climate change that goes beyond just the facts.
I'm really inspired by this piece. I teach my students about communicating about climate as well as the technical side of risk due to climate change. And just watching these many ways of communicating and really enjoying that with a group of people, I think it's really special. And I try to teach them the importance of not just talking about the facts about climate, but also telling a story and making it pertinent to people and making it real. And I think this piece does that.
For me, at least, just the scientific message of climate change is not enough. We have to wed it to art. It has to be wedded to story and melody and harmony. There has to be a way to perceive it on all levels, and I think that's what happens here. It's a wonderful combination that does what art's supposed to do, which is to transform. And I think people are transformed by what she's put together. Because it moves more than the mind. It moves the heart, and it moves the soul. And I think it embeds it within us. The earth isn't simply out there. It has to be in here. And if it isn't in here, we're not going to be able to save it.
And my hope in the Alaska Suite is that I can engage people in that love of the arts, in that experience of the arts, in that emotion and vulnerability of the arts. But it's at the same time, in the process of opening them up emotionally, that I can make them present to also absorb sometimes pretty difficult and challenging facts about climate change. We need the hard facts. We need that work. We need the solutions. That work is really, really important. But I think there's a unique role for artists to play in the transmission of that information to individuals and inspiring them to act, and to act now.
Cliff Spigot on trombone, Julian Smedley on violin, Adam Kessler on drums, Chris Seimer on bass, Nelda Swiggett. Thank you so much for coming and participating in this special event tonight. And thank you so much to Bill and all of his crew. I know we're not done yet, but thank you so much. Thank you so, so much.